Hello everyone and welcome back to the Bantamweight Boxing YouTube channel. I'm your host Michael Waite and today I'm talking all about the Chris Eubank versus Liam Williams fight which happened on Saturday night. I watched the fight, had a little bit of time to think about it on Sunday and I thought I'd make a video on it tonight. This is Monday night, I'm recording it and I should get it out tonight as well. So first of all, I'll start with my kind of overall impressions of the fight. So watching it, it was a bit of a funny fight, a bit of a strange one, really. I was really excited for the fight in the build-up. Like Liam Williams as a fighter, and I'm a fan of Eubank. You know, they both come to fight. They're both always in good shape, and you know they have that style where there's going to be, you know, a lot of combinations, walking forward. Both of them, that kind of similar fight, which usually has a recipe for a bit of a tear up, a bit of a scrap. So I was looking forward to the fight. I was interested to see what kind of styles and what game plans they both employed. But unfortunately, I found myself a bit disappointed, is way too harsh of a word to say, but it wasn't for me the most entertaining fight. And part of that is due to Chris Eubank, and it's a props to him because early on in the fight, he knocked down Williams, you know, in the first, I think it was the second round or even the first round and the second round. So right from the get-go, Liam Williams already had a mountain to climb, which kind of took away a lot of the excitement from the fight because you kind of knew, oh my God, like how's this guy going to get back into this fight? And then, yeah, he's also down on the scorecards and he looked pretty beat up with those first knockdowns. So I was like, oh, it looks like it's going to be easy work for Eubank. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the fight isn't going to be entertaining, because if Eubank then had gone on to, you know, get him out of there and knock him out, you'd say that's an exciting fight for a different reason. You're not getting that close scrap, but still you're seeing, you know, a devastating knockout from Chris Eubank, right? But I found the fight was kind of, you could kind of split the fight into about 3 sections. And I know people say that about most boxing fights, but, you know, the first 4 rounds, very clearly Eubanks, I think 2 knockdowns in that space, maybe even been 3. I know overall it was 4, but I can't remember exactly where the spacings of all the knockdowns were, sorry. So the first 4 rounds, very clearly gone to Eubank. Then the middle 4 rounds, I thought Liam Williams showed a lot of heart, got back into the fight actually, using the jab. Wasn't outboxing Eubank, I think that's too harsh to say outboxing him, but doing more work, being more active and nicking some of the rounds. And then I'd probably say in the final 4 rounds or so, Eubank kind of took back control. Again, a bit like Liam Williams, not really doing too much, but just enough maybe to nick the rounds. So that's another reason why I found it a bit of a kind of meh display, because there just wasn't a lot of engagement. Apart from the knockdowns, there was a lot of times where, you know, especially Eubank, just kind of circling around the ring, you know, a couple of showboats, a couple of, you know, Roy Jones Jr. lifting his hands up and all that, which is all nice to see and all good. But a few times I was like, mate, you got to let the hands go, But I didn't really see it. But anyway, let's get on to the actual performances of both the fighters, because, you know, that's what's really important. And obviously I'm going to be speaking mainly about Eubank here because he's the A-side fighter. He won the fight. So, you know, let's talk about him. So let's start it off with some positives. So the first thing you've got to say is full credit to Eubank. He beat a real game opponent, a real fringe world level fighter in Liam Williams. And it's very easy post-fight when you see someone put another fighter away quite easily like that, knocking them down so many times, to go, oh, Liam Williams is a bum, you know, he's British level or whatever. Yeah, where Liam Williams is at is difficult really to know, but I think we can definitely say, you know, he's fringe world level. And before the fight, I was saying on the podcast, he's a game opponent. Like, he'll come to fight, he can bang, he's got good stamina, he's got heart. You know, he's going to be there for the 12 rounds and cause any fight, you know, most fighters a lot of problems. So for that sense, full credit to Eubank for beating him, and not just beating him, but knocking him down that many times is very impressive. Some other things that I thought were really positive about Eubank's performance. were, the counter punching. That's not saying Eubank's known for, but he really showed some new skills in the arsenal, I think it's fair to say. With that first knockdown, Williams is coming in. He's a bit vulnerable, leaving the chin in the air a little bit, but it's a nice little move from Eubank, and he times him really well. Stiff jab to the jaw, and it knocks him down. And we saw him do that multiple times in the fight. He really got his timing down, his counter punching down. So, that's impressive from Eubank, because it's not something we've seen much from him. Also as well, just his jab in general, especially for the knockdowns. Again, he's not really known for having the greatest jab. I was slagging it off actually in the last podcast, but he's made me eat my words, because he knocked Williams down with it. So fair enough, fair play to him with that. Clearly has worked on strengthening the jab, or or something like that. So yeah, those two I'd say were big positives from the fight. And also, another positive is he never really looked in trouble. Like there was never a point where you're like, oh God, he's looking a bit ropey right now, especially when Williams was getting back in the fight. He always kept quite composed. And I don't think he really got out of, third gear, really. I don't think he really was ever in, performing at his best. I think he was always kind of a bit reserved, held something back the whole way through, which is a positive in some sense, because it shows that he wasn't forced to go to that next level. But as I'll say later on, I find that kind of disappointing as a boxing fan, because you want to see that fighter give 100 in that ring, and even if they they take it to that level and then knock that person out. Do you see what I mean? But he never did. But still, a lot of positives to take from it, and he's in a very good position now, beating someone like Liam Williams. But now, getting on to a bit more of the negatives, it's hard to say you're unimpressed with someone who scored 4 knockdowns in a fight. Like, do you know what I mean? It's a bit of a contradiction in itself. Like, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. But I was slightly disappointed in Eubanks' performance. He got the job done, but I just felt, when you're knocking someone down that early in a fight, you put the gas on and you put them away. Liam Williams shouldn't have made it out of the 4th round. He shouldn't have made it out of the 4th round. How he even got back into the fight after, seriously being hurt, is a bit disappointing for me from Eubank. And what does this come down to? I don't know if this is the kind of teachings of Roy Jones Jr. or whatever, but I think a lot of people will agree with me, is that kind of old school Eubank, who had his faults, would have got Williams out of there. He would have dug his heels into the canvas and just started throwing the combinations and put him out there. And that's what I wanted to see. That's what Eubank's known for. He's got precision, very quick hands, very precise shots, especially when he's throwing those combinations. And he should have let the hands go and just get Williams out of there. But he just didn't do it. And not only did he not do that, he kind of, in those middle rounds, just kind of fell asleep and just kind of coasted it. And it reminded me a lot of his fight against Marcus Morrison. And, obviously Marcus Morrison is nowhere near the caliber of Liam Williams, but, not miles, he's not miles off. But it was a very similar fight in some ways, where Eubank had Morrison hurt very early on. And you're like, oh, this is it. Oh, nice work, Eubank. 2 rounds, 3 rounds in, he's going to lay him out now, fair play. Show that dominance. But he just sat back and was like, no, it's all right. I'm just going to coast this. I'm just going to coast this to 12 rounds. And you're like, okay, but, how are you calling out Golovkin? How are you calling out the biggest names in boxing, want these big fights? If you want those, you've got to show your money's worth, because you haven't got the names on the resume. So when you come up against someone like Liam Williams, you've got to lay him out. And then people are going to be like, okay, all right, Eubanks, he's about something here. But yeah, so I was slightly disappointed with that. I thought, I thought we saw some worrying signs that we've seen throughout Eubank's career, where, a decent boxer, a purebred boxer, is going to cause Eubank a lot of problems, because, Liam Williams isn't known for his boxing ability, but he was nicking those rounds in the middle rounds, and that's after he was out of it. You know, he'd just been bashed up. So, you know, people made, I've heard people say online, the comment, what if you took those knockdowns out of the fight? Take Eubanks knockdowns out of the fight, and then scored it. You know, Liam Williams would probably be up there. I think that's it's a bit of a stupid comment because there were the knockdowns, but there is a point there of, you know, when it came to the actual boxing, he got outworked a lot of the time, which is, you know, a bit worrying. So, you know, it made me start thinking, you know, would Golovkin, how would he be looking at that fight, you know, looking at Eubank and that performance? And I don't think he'd be particularly worried. Whether he'd take the Eubank fight is another, you know, whole nother story. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that in another video. But yeah, I don't think a lot of people have been looking at that performance and going, oh, you know, shiver me timbers, fucking hell, Eubank, he looks dangerous. So yeah, so some negatives, but overall, you know, it's a good win, and it's probably the best win on Eubank's record so far in terms of caliber of opponent. So in that sense, you know, he's gone to someone else's backyard as well. He's gone into Wales. He's done a job, and he's got out fairly unscathed, which is a great result for Eubank. But yeah, thought it could have been a bit more impressive. But yeah, difficult one with Eubank. We'll see how it goes with his career now. Whether he kind of, I don't know, reverts a little bit back to his old style. I don't know. We'll see. But overall, I think to wrap this video up, actually, there's one more thing I want to say as well. What the fuck was going on with Williams as well? Like, that's a whole nother dodgy bit of the fight. Like, he wasn't at the races races. He's not a racist. He wasn't at the races. Sorry. He wasn't at the races from the get-go. You know, getting knocked down with a jab. Like, I get the first one I kind of got because it was a sneaky shot and he kind of walked onto it and he was off balance or whatever. But a few of those shots so early on in the fight, I don't think should be causing you that much kind of problems. And it did lead me to question, you know, how much of an effect did that Andrade fight have on Williams? You know, is the punch resistance gone now? I don't know. So yeah, that was a little bit of a worrying part of the fight as well, and kind of took a little bit away from Eubank's performance, because you were kind of thinking, you know, Williams had just done 12 rounds of Andrade, taking some big shots in that. And he looked pretty vulnerable very early on in the fight. But yeah, I just had to add that point. But you know, you don't want to take too much away from Eubank. But yeah, overall, I think I'd rate the performance from Eubank probably like 6.5 John Furies out of 10. That's what I'd give it. It's a good win, but not, you know, could have been better. Anyway, I think that will wrap that up. That's kind of my fight analysis for Eubank Williams. Thank you very much for listening. Please drop a like and a comment, whatever you think. You know, tell me. I don't know anything about boxing. I don't mind. And thank you very much for listening. So good night and see you later.